Today is March 26th, 2023. My name is Carly Soul. I'm a 7th grade student at Temple Sholom in Greenwich, Connecticut, and I will be interviewing my grandma, whose name is Elise. This interview is being recorded for the Oral History Society of the Jewish Historical Society of Fairfield County. Good afternoon, Grandma.
Hi, how are you?
Good, yeah. So, let's start. Can you tell me your full name?
Sure. My full name is Elise Ronnie Held Kanik.
Who were you named after, if you know?
I was named after both of my great-grandmothers, Elke and Rivka.
So, do you have a Hebrew name?
No, when I was born, they did not give out Hebrew names. They gave out Yiddish names.
Oh, what's your Yiddish name?
Elke Rivka, after both great-grandmothers.
When and where were you born?
I was born in Manhattan on March 24th, 1949.
And where did you grow up, and who did you live with growing up? Where?
Well, for the first year of my life, I lived with my parents and my maternal grandparents in Elmhurst, Queens. And then when I was a year, my parents and I moved to Brooklyn, East New York. And I lived there until I was about 13. And at that point, we moved to a house on Long Island in Nassau County in North Woodmere.
Was there a place that you liked out of all those, your favorite, or?
I liked living in Brooklyn because I had made a lot of friends there, and I was very sad when we left and I had to leave them. But I made new friends in North Woodmere.
Do you know where your family was from originally?
Yes, I do. I am 100% Ashkenazi Jew from various different places. My paternal grandfather, his name was Max Held, and he was born in Romania in about 1891. I'm not too sure of the dates because nobody was born in a hospital then, and they didn't keep records. He was one of, how many? Stop for a minute.
I'll pause it.
He was one of 12 children. His parents were from Romania, and his father's name was Joseph Held, and he was born in about 1853, and his mother's name was Frances Goodman Held. When my grandfather was about 17, he immigrated to the United States alone.
Alone?
He came on the ship, the Amsterdam, which departed from Rotterdam in the Netherlands, and he landed at Ellis Island. And his occupation was a buttonhole maker. Okay. And my paternal grandmother was Sarah or Suri Goldblatt. She was born in Greenwich, Poland, approximately 1897. She also emigrated by herself. She was 18 years old when she came to the United States, and she also departed from Rotterdam in the Netherlands and arrived at Ellis Island. And she was one of 6 siblings. She was the only one that emigrated to the United States. And when World War II came about, she was the only one from her family that survived. Her 5 other siblings and their spouses and all their children were killed in the Holocaust. There were 3 survivors, nieces and nephews, 2 of whom went to Israel to live after they were liberated from the camps, and 1 nephew, after he got out of the concentration camp, went to Sweden. And from there he met his wife, and my grandmother, Sylvia Sura, sponsored them to come to the United States, and they lived with her for a while until they could get established. So those are my paternal grandparents. My maternal grandparents, William Hyman was my grandfather. He was born in New York about 1896, but his parents came from Austria. And his parents were Abraham, who was born about 1864 in Austria, and also Rose Kalb-Hyman. She was born about 1870 in Austria. They both emigrated to the United States in 1895. The ship was the St. Paul, and it left from Southampton, England, and it arrived in Ellis Island. And he was the oldest of three boys, William, my grandfather, and he was a shoe salesman. My maternal grandmother was Mildred Rachel Shulak. She was born in New York also. Her parents immigrated from Russia. And her father was Abraham Shulak, born about 1855 in Russia, and Anna Paskov Shulak, born 1858 in Russia. And they emigrated to the United States in about 1890.
Oh.
My grandmother was one of 8 children. She was in the middle.
Oh.
And she gave birth to my mother, whose name was Selma Claire Held, but she went by the name of Claire, and she was an only child. And Carly, you are named for her. Her name was Simachaya, and your name is Chaya.
So thank you so much for this background. Now I would like you to, did you bring an item today, or?
I brought a photograph, which I can show you.
So you can.
Okay. This is a Shabbos candelabra that my grandmother, Sarah Sylvia Held, brought to the United States when she immigrated here from Poland. And it is made of Russian silver because Poland at that time was part of the Russian Empire. She spoke Polish, Russian, Yiddish, and when she came to the United States, learned English. So,
Wow.
4 languages. And that is her Shabbos candelabra.
Really cool. Sorry. It's not scrolling. Can I? It wasn't recording for that whole time. For that.
For which part?
For the part about the artifact. I didn't
Okay,
pause it.
let's go back.
Oh no, it was. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. So now I would like to ask you a few questions about your life growing up.
Sure.
What was it like? Can you describe your childhood home, neighborhood, friends, and family?
Okay, we lived in an apartment. There were 2 bedrooms. My sister was 6 years younger than I was. When she was born, we shared a bedroom. There were lots and lots of other children my age in the building. Most of the people that lived there were GIs who had returned from the war, and then they moved into this new housing complex. So lots of kids to play with. We always played outside. There were playgrounds and lots of large areas where you could run around, ride bikes, skate.
How did your parents make a living?
My father was a printer. He printed newspapers. And my mother was a housewife.
What, besides what you already mentioned before, what did you and your childhood friends do for fun?
We were almost always outdoors. We used to play skelly, stoop ball. We used to play ringalivio. We rode bicycles, did skating, roller skating, and we built little carts out of milk cartons and skate wheels, and we would go zipping around the neighborhood.
So, Can you pick a Jewish holiday and describe how you and your family celebrated it when you were a kid?
Okay. Well, my mother and my grandmothers would always cook traditional dishes for the holidays, and I would watch and sometimes help. And we would go to synagogue and get together for a holiday meal with the whole family.
Nice. So, when you were a teenager, did you have a bat mitzvah?
No, back then, unless you were Orthodox, girls didn't go to Hebrew school. So, no, I did not have a bat mitzvah then, but I did have an adult bat mitzvah.
And that was...
That was when I was probably about 45 years old.
What?
And also, because I didn't go to Hebrew school as a child, they sent me to Yiddish school.
What's the difference between the two?
You learn to speak and read Yiddish.
Yiddish. I was like, for the traditions, like, did you learn about holidays and stuff and all of that?
Yes,
too?
definitely.
Okay. What was the most important thing to you about having a bat mitzvah?
That I would be able to follow along during services when I went to temple.
What traditions from your childhood did you pass on to Mom and to me?
I think preparing recipes that are appropriate for the holidays and cooking together and going to services together.
When you were around my age, what was your favorite radio or television program or movie?
When I was about your age, the big thing was Westerns on TV, and I used to like to watch Westerns.
I don't know if you mentioned this TV show to me or not, because we were watching like an award show once, like Gidget or something it was called. Like
That was a movie.
That was a movie, okay.
There was several movies. There was Gidget and Gidget Goes Hawaiian, and there were a few others.
Why were the Westerns your favorite? Like,
everybody liked watching them because it was very exotic seeing the West. I mean, hadn't left New York at that point, so seeing out West was very exciting.
Did anyone in your family ever serve in the military?
Yes. My father was in the Army Air Force, and he was a bombardier during World War II. And he survived all his missions and in Europe, and then he was sent to North Africa and then Sicily. And my husband, Leslie, your grandfather, was an Army reservist.
How did you meet Grandpa?
We met in college. We were taking a biology course, and that's where we met.
Did you instantly, like, get close and, like, get to know each other, or did it, like, take a while to actually...
No, it was pretty quick.
So, what did you do to make a living after you finished school?
Okay, after I finished, I went to work in a hospital. I did medical research. We were doing tissue culture research on Tay-Sachs disease, which is a disease found predominantly in Eastern European Jews. Also some cancer research, and then I had worked on non-healing wounds.
Oh.
And Grandpa went on to become a lawyer, and then he was an assistant district attorney. He went into private practice. He was the legal counsel for the state assembly, and then became a New York State family court judge.
Now we're gonna wrap up with a few general questions. Sorry. Is it gonna ask you a few wrap-up questions?
Okay.
What invention or development has amazed you in your lifetime, and why?
I guess the internet. I mean, there was absolutely nothing like it.
Yeah.
It's an incredible invention, a way to communicate.
And what advice do you have for generations in the future? Like,
Just enjoy your life. Be a good, kind, honest person. Do well.
thank you so much for talking to me and spending this time. It was awesome getting to know all these things.
My pleasure.